All right. Right. Welcome everyone to my first ever live stream. Hopefully at least somebody will join it because at the moment I have never done one of these before. And also for the same reason, apologies to anyone who does join and is wondering what the hell is this guy doing, because he has no idea what it is that he's meant to be doing on these. I'm just going to be doing a quick live stream. I've set up my stuff, I think, for the first time. Hello, my first hello on a live stream. The objective here is just to try it out, see if it works, see if people actually engage. Hello, Deirdre. And answer any questions that people might have. I recently put out a video where I talked a little bit about my background, and hopefully people found a few things interesting. Hey, Kevin. But I don't know what questions people might actually have that I haven't answered, or maybe just something really random. So I thought, hey, let's go and do something. I apologize, I'm going to be looking at all kinds of different screens because I have my YouTube studio thing over here. My comments are below here. I've got my other screen over here that has some of my tools for this live stream. So I'm going to be jumping around, but I'm going to be looking at the camera as well. Oh, a lot more. Kirk, Benjamin, Patrick, Running Planking, and Anna. Oh, so many people. This is more than just my mum, which is pretty exciting. What do I think about the US market dip right now? From Kevin. Hi, Sean and Nick. So this is an interesting one. I mean, I think I mentioned it in a couple of videos I recently made. I have the same view as I actually have hardly looked. I think I looked once today, saw that Tesla and people dipped further. I'm not really particularly concerned. TSMC, everything is down. Tesla's down a lot more in the same time period. My kind of view on this is there's a lot of fluctuation and there's a lot of different things that are affecting the price, especially of tech stocks that some people would potentially think are overblown. There's been a lot of activity with Twitter and with Doge coins. I keep getting told that I'm wrong, whichever way I say it. And my view on it is, in the long term, the key is to do the right kind of valuation, to try to assess what are you trying to play in terms of the long game. What are you trying to do in terms of the price? What is your view on what the price should be, and why do you think should it be at that level? If the price jumps up and down in between, I personally am not too concerned if the reasons for why it's jumping do not affect the long-term outlook. And as a result, I don't really care. I don't really pay much attention to it. I don't do anything to change my outlook unless there is a good reason to. And so far, with all the stuff that's happening at the moment, it looks like it's sort of something between a correction and a small crash. I don't know, I'm not sure if we're going to be entering a long-term bear market, but my view on some of the technology platforms kind of remains the same. Just this morning, there was a bunch of news coming out on TSMC and other companies in particular. So Tesla has had to halt the production of one of its car lines for 2 weeks because they are running out of semiconductor chips. I made a video about semiconductor chips in that boring stocks video not too long ago. But this is just, to me, saying exactly the same thing, which is more and more demand is there for these chips. The price that they're being sold at is increasing. If you look at like consumer grade stuff, which is stuff that is more easily accessible, you look at AMD cards, AMD processors, you look at NVIDIA cards, the price of them is increasing rapidly over the last few days. All of them have gone up. And the reason is because this lack of supply, well, not lack of supply, because the demand is so much greater. There's the whole mining community, there's the massive demand from car manufacturers that's starting, there's the working from home, there's just a million different reasons. And so for me, like, great, they're dropping. It just means that if I have cash on hand, it means I can buy even more of it. The fact is, the situation from several weeks ago when see, can you guys see and hear me okay? Because YouTube is telling me that there's some kind of issue going on. Please tell me in the comments if we're all good, because I've got a big warning. I don't know. Anyway, I'll wait for somebody to tell me. But anyway, so my view on it is this demand is going to continue to grow for months and years. I am perfectly fine with it. I don't really care too much about the perturbations at the moment. Thank you. I can see, a lot of people saying it's all good. So I'm going to ignore this big yellow error message from YouTube. So my view on it is I'm holding, and I'm going to be investing more because my view on where that whole industry is going hasn't really changed. The fact that there's stuff happening, it doesn't really bother me. I'm going to look, there's some more questions. What's my opinion regarding real estate in the UK? One sec, let's see what else there is before I jump into another question. How are you doing, Sean? Nick? There's so many people in here. Sorry, guys, I'm not going to be able to mention everybody now. Should someone looking to use their ISA allowance invest now or wait for a few weeks considering the drop? Let me cover the property question. I'm not going to talk at great length because for most people, property is really not a valid way to invest money because in my opinion, investing in REITs and things like that, I know everyone in the UK likes to talk about those things because people like watching it. I personally don't invest in that because the returns on those types of investments are relatively low compared to equivalent risk or equivalent other investments I can be holding elsewhere. But investing in real property is something that I do want to do a lot more of, that I haven't been doing a lot of because I've been prioritizing my money elsewhere, but that requires a large amount of money. And I think there's a lot of value in that done right. But I think that's one for most people probably that's not going to be attainable or achievable for some time. But in terms of ISA, it really, like, nobody knows, right, as to whether this is going to continue tanking. I don't know if it's going to fall even further. I don't know if it's going to begin bouncing at some point. My kind of view on this is somewhat different probably to some other people, and that is I am interested in investing for the long term, and I see now the position versus, say, last week or the week before that. So the prices on the types of stocks that I'd want to be buying are much, much lower than they were a few weeks ago when I was still investing at that price at that point. If you look at my eTORO account, I am minus like many percent. I think it's a public kind of account or something like that. And that's because I went and did the video where I created the account, and then I went and did a video about Bitcoin, and at the same time I actually bought Bitcoin. I did all that just before everything fell. And so like some people have been commenting, hey, what do you know, your portfolio's down? Well, yeah, of course, because I put all my money in just before all of this stuff. It doesn't really bother me in any way. But if I was opening an ISA account and had the money on hand, I personally probably wouldn't wait because to me the pricing is good versus my valuations anyway. I don't really try to time the market. I will be putting more money into my ISA before the end of the year to make the most out of the free allowance. It depends if Trading 212 are going to be opening their referrals as well. Maybe I'll get a free share or two to add to it. Anyway, some more questions. Let's answer some more questions. What's my opinion? We've already done that one. Do you think, the question from Anna, do you think is now time to invest more or wait more for the market to crash? I think I just answered the same question. I'm not particularly interested in waiting for crashes or trying to time it. I just value on, if I get a target price, and I'm going to be talking a lot more in upcoming videos over the next few weeks about how I actually reach my target price and the specific methodology that I use and the exact models that I use. I'm going to be going through a lot of detail on that. But in terms of if I see a price and the price is like 650 or 690 for a stock that I would be valuing at, say, like 1,000 plus, I'm interested in buying. Sure, it can drop even further, but I'm interested in going from the 650 towards the 1,000, much more so than trying to time it to drop to 630 and then buying at that, because that difference, sure, it's material to a degree, but I don't have the time to be sitting there every day trying to figure out what the candlesticks are going to be doing. In my opinion, most probably can't do it anyway. All right, what do we got? Okay, next question from Thomas. Should you pay off part of your mortgage or dump the funds into the market once it crashes? I have a very different opinion on the whole mortgage front to I think pretty much every other UK YouTuber out there, in that I think it's the one kind of debt which in most cases probably makes absolutely no sense in clearing or overpaying. And this is one where everyone disagrees with me. Typically, mortgages are the cheapest form of debt other than like 0% credit cards and stuff that you can really hold in the UK. And as a result, it's a way for you to be able to use leverage, in my opinion, by essentially carrying that debt and using the money you could potentially use to overpay for investments or other kind of stuff that will typically yield far more than a mortgage will cost. I don't know, typical mortgage costs for like higher deposits, what are they at the moment, like 1.5, 1.6, sometimes 1.8%. I know some can be even lower than that, but even if your deposit is low, you're talking like maybe 2, maybe even 3%, like if you're finding a really high priced one and you don't have particularly good level of risk. I can find 20 different ways of putting money to use that would yield me a higher return than 3%. and certainly than 1.5%. So I don't really have a particularly big interest in trying to pay off my mortgage early, because I get the psychology of it, that it's nice to sort of like clear your debts, but I also am a mathy kind of guy where I try to make a decision on what is the most optimal route for me to be able to have more money at a point in time in the future, like in a year or in 2 years. And if that route is to, well, keep that debt and repay it at the minimum rate because I can put the money to better use, which will earn me more money and therefore I'll have a higher return, I just take that option. And sure, some people will probably think it's risky. That's just my personal opinion. It's just my personal view. All right. Next question from ES Trading. Quite a few investors I know have come out of cash and into gold, silver to protect against the banks collapsing and bail-in enforced on their customers. What are your thoughts? Same as before, I don't try to swing between holding like gold, silver, and assets like shares or ETFs or other things, because I am not particularly interested in trying to game that gap. And actually, I have better things to do. Like I think I mentioned this in 1 or 2 videos, and some people really strongly disagree with this viewpoint, especially some other investing channels and other money channels in the UK who wrote a lot of comments on this. I view investing as something that can't really make you rich, but it can certainly grow the wealth that you've already built. So this is a big difference to me, in that if I have money already, I'm really into investing, because then I can take that money and make something with it and actually grow it. But a lot of people will talk to people on YouTube saying you can get rich by investing. You can get rich by starting in the investing world with as little as £50 or £100. And then magically you'll become wealthy or whatever. And that's just simply not true. It doesn't matter how good you are investing. If you get 20% return rates per year, which is like unfathomable, if you start with £100, or even if you put £100 every month into it, you'll never be really rich. Maybe in 60 years, you'll have like £1 million. Great. If that's the definition of rich, like that's not my definition. And so for me, like I don't try to play those swings, because I'm focused with most of my time on how I can earn more money, rather than trying to optimize and spend 100% of my time on the investment side. And sure, there's degrees, like I could just stick everything in an ETF and not touch it ever. But I think I can do slightly better than that with a very minimal time outlay. So it's that 80-20 rule where, I can spend a little bit extra effort to get much more return, but actually I don't see any point in going beyond that into any kind of day trading or something like that. That's just for me, what I choose to do. All right. Lots of hello to everyone. What happened to Money Fox from Tom? Why the switch? This was very early on the channel. The vast majority of you probably have no idea what this is on about. When I first started, I had a little screen behind me over here which said Money Fox, and I even registered a domain. I was thinking like, what's the best branding or something when I first started? Bring back Money Fox. And I started doing it, but then I was really busy with a few other projects. I actually was working consulting and doing most of my time on blogging. But then there was somebody else in the UK, another blogger. She actually has a domain. I think it's themoneyfox.com or .co.uk. I can't remember. Anyway, so completely separately, and I spoke to her about this just for laughs. She didn't know about this channel because it was tiny at the time, but she actually registered a trademark shortly after I started my YouTube channel for exactly the same name, because she used it under a different domain. But separately, I just didn't want to step on it. I didn't want to fight it, because it was just like, I just decided to change it to my name. And that probably actually worked out better. I think most people actually prefer when a person speaking to them is just doing it under their name, because then they can relate to them, they can understand them, they can kind of feel like they know them a bit better. So I just made the switch. That's just the honest truth as to what happened. I then had to switch my domain over, so my domain moved over to sashayanshin.com. And yeah, that's about it on that one. What have we got? As an immigrant, how you find life in the UK, and have you thought of moving elsewhere? From Tony. I'm not really that much of an immigrant, because I've been in the UK for most of my life. I've actually been here for 22 years. So I guess like I don't really feel like an immigrant. In fact, like I feel more at home here than I do when I go back to Russia to see my family. All my like parents, grandparents, etc. all live over in Russia. So I don't really feel that much like an immigrant, but and I'm married here. My wife is British, but I I would consider probably at some point moving elsewhere. I quite like the idea of living in other countries and stuff. I actually lived in New York for about a year, which I really enjoyed. That was really great. We lived in Greenpoint, just across the river from Manhattan. And I'm open to kind of trying other places out as well, especially now that my work is a lot more flexible than it used to be. Hopefully by the end of this year. By the end of this year, we'll do the full switch. Anyway, so too many questions. Okay. Hi, Sasha. Just wanted to say thank you from Hammer23 UK. Just want to say thank you for your really informative videos. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Somebody did some investing. Nick, I can see a lot of people that I reply to comments. Hi, Sasha. I haven't been able to find an answer to this question. Do you know if one is able to open and close positions multiple times within the day with the invest account on Trading 212? But by positions, like there's two different things that I guess it could be. So if you're talking about CFDs, I don't do a lot of CFDs. My understanding is yes, you can. And Trading 212, like other free platforms, they don't wait for any clearing to complete or whatever, so you can. Same with invest. With invest or ISA, there's the secondary question, which is if you're closing and opening positions on the same stocks, then the considerations of bed and breakfasting rules in terms of like its CGT treatment, but it doesn't really. So then you won't necessarily get the benefit if you try to time it through that. I'm not sure, Nick. If you want to clarify, send another one through. What have we got? What's the best SIP to invest in stocks for you? For me, there's only one good one out there at the moment in terms of the availability of different stocks, ETFs, etc., to invest and the pricing, and that is FREETRADE. And I've actually moved most of my pensions over to FREETRADE, and I have one more. I actually have an envelope over here. I had to complete a load of forms for one pension provider because they are so old school on paper, and I need to post it over to FREETRADE for that transfer to go through. So that's the one I'm moving to because I made that video. Like, this is the one thing, before I go and read any questions. When I talk about stuff on YouTube videos, almost every single time when I talk about something, in fact, every single time pretty much, it's usually because I am like literally doing that thing, or I am about to do that thing, or I'm really investing in that thing. So when I talk about like companies that I'm investing, I'm usually like that day, the day before, the day after, investing in those companies. When I talk about FREETRADE, like I said, it's a game changer. It's a game changer genuinely because I feel like it is. And when I talk about it, like I didn't just try to say, oh, here is something that I want to talk about, but I'm going to be doing something completely different over here. Like I've literally moved all my pensions over for that exact reason of that video. So yeah, anyway, let me answer some more questions. Kirk, hi Sasha, when do you see stocks turning red? How do you not panic a bit? I just don't really care. Like, I answered this one a couple of times, similar questions before, but I just watch what happens with the stocks and try to understand, are the reasons for why they're dropping material to my valuations of the company? And in most cases, the answer is no. Even the stuff with Tesla right now. So I am very heavily invested in Tesla out of my overall portfolio, which is not very big, but as a proportion, quite a lot in Tesla. And I see all this stuff happening. So they're investing in Bitcoin. The fact that they had to 2 days stop the production on one of their lines, and they're going to suspend another production line for 2 weeks because of a shortage of components. And there's a bunch of this kind of stuff, and Elon keeps tweeting, and people for whatever reason drop on the price. And I'm looking at them going, but they're building several huge factories of a sort of size like the world has never seen before in terms of even car manufacturing. This is insane. I mean, like maybe Volkswagen can compare with their giant plant in Germany, but generally speaking, they're doing stuff. All of this is still happening. Their plans in terms of the growth on the numbers of cars they're going to be outputting are still there. And those plans are still going to be coming through, and they're still going to be selling those cars in the future. And I'm interested in what they're going to be doing in Q3 and in Q4 and in 2022 and beyond. Apologies for some kind of helicopter flying overhead or something, if you can hear a weird buzz. So all this short-term stuff, like the fact they're pausing something for a week or two when they have factories opening up, they're going to be producing 500,000 cars initially, and then potentially wrapping up to even greater per location. And some of our projections around what the margins on that will be once those things are up and running, and what they're doing with AMD in terms of the custom chips that they're producing. And even this morning, there was some news about some really interesting innovative batteries that these guys are on the brink of sort of getting to a stage where it could go into production, which are going to significantly, like, to me, I look at that news and I'm like, wow, great, I should put more money into Tesla. And then their price drops. And I'm like, okay, great, I can buy it even cheaper. All right. What have we got next? I'm sorry if I'm going to miss people's questions because I'm getting far more people than I expected on this. All right. Tom, hey, you answered a couple of questions I had comment section not so long ago. I'll be debt free in 2 months' time. I really appreciate your support. That's very nice. Thank you very much. Thoughts on Vanguard, also SIP or stocks and shares ISA for long-term retirement investment account? So on Vanguard, I'm kind of in two minds because I generally prefer to have investing accounts where you have a lot more flexibility. With Vanguard, I don't like, unlike most people out there, especially like if you look at the biggest UK investing channels, they all really praise some of their lifestyle options and stuff like that. I'm not a big fan of those funds because the returns are actually lower than what I think they really should be, especially for some of the earlier stage stuff. And so I'm not a big fan. And even with the S&P 500, so if you want to invest in their VUSA, VUSD, VUAG, or any of the other ones, it's actually cheaper to invest in Vanguard funds off Vanguard. So either on Trading 212 if you already have that account, or even on FreeTrade, it's completely free. You can go and create an account via my link if you want to get yourself a free share, and I'll get one as well. But then once you create the account, you can actually go and buy VUSA, and it'll cost you the 0.07% management fee for the fund, which is the same wherever you buy it. But that's it. That's the only fee you're going to have to pay. So if you buy a pound denominated one, if you don't buy the dollar one. If you buy the dollar one, you're going to have to pay an extra 0.5% for the conversion. However, if you're buying it through Vanguard, you have to pay that, I think it's 0.15% fee for having a portfolio on there, on top of the fund fee. And so it's kind of weird that you can buy the stuff I want to buy from Vanguard, I can buy elsewhere for cheaper. So that's the reason why I don't do it. And the question of SIP or stocks and shares ISA, I made a video recently about pensions, which was intentionally only talking about one point because I wanted to make that point very clearly. But I believe that the right thing from my perspective is to use a healthy balance and make the most out of the different options. So I wouldn't necessarily. So pensions do have huge advantages, especially on the tax front. The fact that you can go and invest pre-tax, especially if you are a higher or additional income tax rate person, the benefits of being able to put money into that pension before any deductions are huge. And I do appreciate that later down the line there might be tax. And the video I made about pensions just a few days ago, where I got slated for saying that you shouldn't invest in pension because of that limit, even today it came out that Rishi's apparently considering freezing that limit, which is quite funny because I got so much stick for it, saying, well, of course that limit's going to be rising every year and probably rising by a lot. And only a few days later, like the point is being highlighted again. So to me, I would still put money into pension because it is so advantageous. I'll just be very careful with not overextending that. And the fact that that money is frozen until you retire is another really big consideration, because some people probably kind of think, well, I'm going to be okay. But sometimes maybe you need to go and buy a house, and it's just at that point when you need it, you would like to have access to that cash, but you can't. And even if it was a bit less because you're putting it after tax into the investment account, you're still going to benefit your life maybe in some ways. So I don't want to go 100% on one or 100% on the other. I quite like to kind of use the best bits of all the different investment options and all the different kinds of accounts available to make the most out of each. Where was I? Right. From Lord Blighty, Sasha, thanks for the great content. What's your view on paying back student loans? Pay the minimum, pay back as early as possible. Current interest rate, interest in the UK is around 1.1%. So of course, it does depend a little bit on which of the student loan systems you're in. So if you've been to university, I can't remember what the year is, 2012 or before, I'm probably wildly wrong, but there's the Plan 1 and then there's the Plan 2 stuff. The Plan 1 is really cheap. And the same argument that I was talking about earlier about mortgages, in my mind, applies to those types of loans, because if you have a student loan and it is costing you next to nothing, I'd much rather use the money that I have to go and invest or put into things that would yield more than the 1% that it's costing me. Whereas if I'm one of the newer student loans, which I think are costing like 5 point something%, maybe even 5.9, I'm not 100% sure. So whatever that number is, there's probably slightly more consideration to repaying that a bit earlier, because like although investments would on average return higher, in times of turbulence they may not. And so I can see the psychology and the rationale for paying those down maybe a little bit more quickly. But at the same time, I'd probably still just leave it, because the repayment is pretty aggressive as it is. As your salary increases, it's going to be like 9% over that threshold, and that's going to, as your earnings increase, that's going to begin paying it off much faster over time. And so I would probably just let that thing run and do other things with my money. Next question, Anisu, what are your thoughts on value versus growth investing, and any thoughts on Scottish Mortgage Trust? Value versus growth. So I'm generally a big fan of long-term growth investing. I'm not a fan of any kind of dividend yields or anything like that, because even in the best case scenario, you're talking about like 5-6%. But I know there's some companies that maybe you'll get 7 or 8 in some years. But I'm kind of interested in slightly more. I'm also young, so this is like I have a slightly different biased perspective on this compared to maybe a lot of people out there, in that I'm so far away from retirement that I can take more risks in my portfolio, because on average those risks should yield me stronger returns. And if I was closer to retirement, I probably would not be taking the same risks, because I may not have the time to then recover from the positions if things went down. So I am very much a growth focused investor, and I'm interested in putting money into things where I think I mentioned this in a few videos, and I'm going to be talking a lot more about exactly what this means specifically starting from next week. But I'm really interested in companies where the company themselves have a massive opportunity for growth within the area in which they work. So like they're really innovative, they're doing great stuff, but they still have a tiny market share. Like for that description, like Tesla is probably a really great example, in that like they are streets ahead on some ways of their competition, who will take years to catch up to remotely the same place. But yet they still have a tiny fraction of their overall car market. But then the second thing that I really get interested about is, stream state is poor. If somebody can tell me if things are bad, I'm getting like even worse than normal. I'm being told that it's not working well. But anyway, so if the industry within which the company that I'm interested in investing in is also growing, that to me is the really big opportunity. So some of the semiconductor stuff, some of the tech areas, some of the co-working areas. So like this, the way I see my investments in things like Slack and other things, like I see the industry. So like say the communications or some of the tech expanding massively because of the adoption by people who work in remotely, by smaller companies, by all that kind of stuff. And so I'm interested in things where both of those. You sound okay, good to go. All right. We're all good. So I'm interested in companies where both of those apply in particular, and that's where I try to put in quite a significant portion of my investing portfolio. All right. Where were we? Do you invest in any alternative asset classes? Not really, primarily because I don't have a big enough portfolio to really need that level of diversification. Also, I'm pretty happy with the width of choices available. Just to interest, I have a small amount of money in Bitcoin. That's probably about as alternative as I currently have. How do I? Okay, so oh god, where were we? Oh, okay. Sorry about this. I would like to put everything above 50k of my salary into SIP, but did not find a good calculator to know exactly how much I should put. Do you know any? I'm not sure what the question is. I'm not sure. Like, it's up to you as to how much you put into a SIP versus other pensions. I can't really provide any specific advice on that. Are you on FREETRADE Plus? Because if you like low interest, the trick is putting £4,000 over the year. You'll only pay £84 a year to SIP and 12p in credit. Well, yeah, I get that. So the interest rate only applies on the 3%. So if you have the SIP, the FREETRADE Plus account, you get 3% paid on cash, but that cash has to stay as cash. It doesn't pay that on money that's invested. And I certainly feel I can make a lot more on average than 3% if I invest the money. So I don't really understand that position that some people are making. Like, I'd rather invest it and not earn the 3%. I actually have, just for full disclosure, I actually have FreeTrade Plus because as an influencer who is on that program where I have the link for free shares and I am able to go and share it with people, I get FreeTrade Plus given to me just automatically as part of that sort of package, if you like, which is an extra little benefit. So unfortunately, I just get it as a default, but I probably wouldn't pay for it necessarily because some of the stocks that are not available, I can probably buy elsewhere. I don't really think the 3% interest on cash is worth it. So as it stands, maybe new features are going to be added. I think for people who are maybe more active, the additional benefits of stop losses or limit orders and things like that are going to be really good. But I don't really do them either. So anyway, what do we got? Next question. I'm going to skip a few. I'm sorry. How do I hedge against dropping US dollars if you own a lot of US stocks? I don't hedge at all. The fact is, companies are going to fluctuate over time, and so will stocks. And sure, if I think that there's going to be some UK companies, they're going to, because of the fluctuation of the pound, their stock value in the future may be significantly higher as a result of that alone. Maybe I'd consider investing more money in them. But to me, the majority of my money is in US stocks because they are dominating the global level niches in tech and various tech-related industries. And I see that the fluctuation in currency rate is going to be there, and maybe it'll go as high as 1.8 or 1.9 like it used to at one point over a few years. Maybe it'll drop back down. I don't really try to game or time that because I don't know, and I don't think I have a good way of realistically knowing. I'm not a forex trader, so I don't really hedge for that at all. Would you invest in aerospace? From Tom. Hi Tom. Or do you believe there is further decline to come that makes it unviable to invest? Looking at decline in the market. I don't really invest in aerospace. I have no idea what this situation is going to be doing in terms of more traditional companies that produce like airplanes and stuff like that. I have no idea what the industry is going to be coming to. There's been issues with them before the events of last year happened anyway, and I'm not sure what's going to be happening further down the line in terms of sort of companies that do beyond just regular planes and stuff. Again, I'm not knowledgeable enough about the industry to make really good weighted assumptions. I try to invest in stocks of companies where I understand the industry and the company well enough to be able to make a really strong, rational model that would bottom up give me a good valuation. And in companies where most of that would probably be guesswork or just based off quick Google searches, I'm just not comfortable that I understand enough what I'm putting my money into in the long term. And so I'd probably stay out of that. But mainly for that reason, I'm sure there's people far more qualified who can make a better decision. And I may research some of that, but I don't know. Is Corsair a good buy? I'm they're in the tech industry from Jams. They're in tech industry, but out of the tech stocks, they're very utility and they're very replaceable. I'm not seeing that much exciting new stuff coming out of there, and probably going to be doing all right, but I don't see that growth within their industry, the first component out of the two things that I was talking about before necessarily. Could I do a video on pensions, like how they work in general? Yes. Quite a few videos about pensions coming up. Daniel, I'm going to be doing a lot more on that in the next few weeks, especially as I think I need to counter the last video, which was a little bit negative about pensions, even though before that I had some positive ones. All right. Is Bitcoin going to hit the heights of 100K plus? My crystal ball is still in repair. I smashed it the other day, so I'll get back to you as soon as that comes through. Best way to invest when you're still saving for a home, to buy in 5 years. So it depends on your age. If you're under 39, I would say the Letha account is definitely worth using if it's going to be your first home, because even aside from any potential growth, which actually you're probably not going to get much of because the funds don't return very well and there isn't a genuine stocks and shares version just yet. I'm hoping there will be, but you can put it up to 4,000 a year and you get 1,000 or up to 1,000 added by the government. So essentially on the money you put in into a Letha account, you get a 25% boost right up front and any increase after that. So if you're going to be investing in a relatively short space of time, up to 5 years, you're sort of like guaranteed at 25%. And I know that those values can then drop, but so can any other forms of investments. So I'd be saying like, I'd definitely put some money into that. And then the rest, I'd probably try to use stocks and shares ISAs, especially if you're doing it with a partner. You can then potentially use 2 lots of 20,000 a year allowances. And I'd probably split it between that, although it depends how close you are to the minimum kind of threshold and the deposit. So what I mean, if you're wanting to make sure you have at least 10%, because otherwise you're not going to be able to get a mortgage, you'll probably go with something a bit more safe that doesn't have the chance to have a collapse the moment the market crashes. So I probably wouldn't be doing that. But if I'm confident I'm going to be way over, let's say I'm expecting to get about 30% mortgage deposit, and I don't really care too much if it drops to like 20% in the worst possible case scenario, but the upside could be that I'm going to have, say, 50%, I'd probably go with heavy stock investing on that front, but that's just my personal choice. Everyone needs to make their own risk decisions. Obviously I can't provide advice, blah blah blah, do your own research. So what is the next question? How do I get rich? Easy, just make more money. Marlo, that's the way to get rich. Next question. People are telling me it's pointless to invest without tens of thousands. What's your opinion on this? I share that opinion to a degree, but not in the way that maybe some of these people say. I think investing is great. Even if you have a small amount of money, it is a great way to grow the money that might maybe otherwise be sitting there not doing anything. But to me, investing is not the way that you're going to become rich. Investing is the way that you stay rich or get richer. But I think the point is, don't expect that you're going to become rich just because you're putting money in investments, because that just won't happen, despite what every YouTuber out there tells you. However, if you do have some money and you want to grow it and have more of it over time, and if you're able to earn more money to put into investments over time, investments, in my opinion, are a great way of achieving that in the future. Well, for the majority of people who don't have quintillions of money to put into those investment funds right away. Next, hey Sasha, how long does it take roughly to go from 500 to 900 in credit score and Experian? Credit history is abysmal, but I recently got an amazing job, so I'm trying to set it right. So, point number one, I don't even know necessarily what 500, 900 and Experian in the UK mean, because that number is completely pointless, immaterial, doesn't mean anything. So with credit scores in general, I'm going to go into a little bit here because I think this might help people. All the 3 providers that do credit scores, so Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, X-Score Credit, they all provide services. They each have like a pay service, but there's a free version of each of them as well if you look around. Where you can go and get your credit report, but also they're going to provide you a score. And the reason they provide you a score is because it's good for marketing materials. People like to know what their score is. Those scores are completely pointless because nobody uses them. Not a single lender in the UK, as far as I know, maybe there's some, like the vast majority of lenders, put it that way, do not use that score in any way whatsoever. In fact, in most cases, that score doesn't even get sent to them as part of the credit file. This is just a custom score that they have so that they can go and sell it to people and charge them $14.99 for the privilege. And the things that are important in your credit report are the actual underlying data, because everyone has their own model. Unlike in the US, everyone uses the FICO score with a few overlays, but generally speaking, like everyone uses the same score, and so that one score is hyper important. In the UK, it's completely different in that everyone has a very different model. And so 2 very seemingly similar credit card companies can have completely different ways of assessing customers. And you might be able to get a balance transfer card with one for 36 months, and another one will decline you for a much worse offer. So I would focus. So in terms of like how quickly can you go from an average or not so good to a good, generally speaking, to go from sort of average to better, within 6 months, you should be able to fix all your metrics. So if you don't have any issues with missed payments, if you don't have any issues with missed payments in the past, if you don't have any issues with going over limit, if your balances are coming down steadily, those are all great indicators. Generally speaking, there are kind of 2 really big things, which is the total amount of credit. So you need to work on paying off credit, and the speed of that depends on how quickly you can do that. But the second thing is making sure all your other metrics are healthy in terms of your utilization is good, your payments are on track. And most credit card providers will look at some of the really critical things, like have you missed any payments, for example, or have you gone over limit? They'll look at those over the last 3 months or sometimes 6 months, but not really beyond that. But on other metrics, they'll typically be looking at up to 3 years, in some cases 4 years. So those are metrics like, for example, have you ever charged off on a credit? Have you ever gone into an IVA? Have you ever gone to declare bankruptcy? All those kind of things. So if you had any serious issues like that in the past, it'll take quite a lot longer, but generally speaking, not the full 6 years that it stays on the report. In most cases, you'll be able to qualify for decent credit products within 3 to 4 years. All right, let's go and do some more questions. Why do most people use various investing platforms instead of using just one? Is there a platform that can do it all? The answer is there isn't a platform from John Fevrier. John, I apologize if I mispronounce people's names. I'm trying to read them quickly and I suck at pronouncing names. I use multiple different platforms. I have a video that I put out, I think 2 to 3 weeks ago, which is 7 investing tricks or something like that, 2021. And the first thing that I talk about is exactly this question, which is I like using different investing platforms because they all have their unique advantages, and I like to use each of those unique advantages. So for example, like if you talk about the 3 big investing platforms that I personally use that are available in the UK, Trading 212 is great because it's completely free, for example, to go and invest in US stocks. And I really like doing that. There's no fees at all on Forex or anything else. I like FREETRADE because there's certain company values that I really appreciate over and above the others. I made a whole video about that very topic, but I also use them because I can invest in pound-denominated LSE, London Stock Exchange-based stocks completely for free with FREETRADE, and so I go and make use of that when I do that. And yeah, you can do the same thing with Trading 212, but then I go and split my money between different platforms. I then go and use eToro because on eToro I can access things like Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. I can access funds and ETFs that are not available in the UK because you can buy them on a non-leveraged CFD. So essentially you can buy into ARK, for example. That's one good example that's really popular. But you can't buy it on any other platform, but you can buy it on eToro because you can buy it as a CFD. And the CFD doesn't have the same level of protections necessarily because it's a paper contract between you and the company. You don't actually own the underlying asset. And because of that, that underlying asset doesn't sit in a separate account, just like the same way that, say, a stocks and shares account would. That's a technical issue that I'm not going to go into the depths of, but at the same time, it still allows me to go and invest in things that I can't invest in otherwise that I quite like. But also, here's the thing. So, for example, eToro was down for a whole day, I think like 3 days ago, or whenever it was, earlier this week. And as a result, people who only use that platform couldn't go and access it. Trading 212 had their own issues where like things were blocking, and for a whole day there was like uncertainty, and you couldn't buy and sell certain stocks, and then the minimums went up. What I'm saying is, with all these different platforms, things can happen beyond, your ability to affect them. And if you only use one, then the issue is if you need to go and say like pull out, or maybe partially pull out, or maybe you go and invest in something because the price has fallen, or do something like that. If you have access to multiple, then I can go and use one of the others to do the same thing. Sure, maybe that one will charge me some fees that the other one wouldn't, but because all of them have issues from time to time, there's this extra benefit of being able to do stuff even if one or even two of them are suffering from something. Anyway, next, best bank for teenagers that I'm seeing. Starling teen account. So it's both Starling and Monzo, in my opinion, are streets ahead of the high street banks on what they offer, because they're very, very close to the full offering for 16, 17-year-olds, minus like some of the things that you're not allowed to have when you're under 18, like lending facilities and a few minor points. But I would strongly recommend getting in with one of those. Not recommend. My personal opinion is, but you should make your own minds up and do your own research, blah, blah. All right. What have we got further down? Oh, man, there's just too many questions. By the way, guys, I'm going to have to drop off in 5 minutes because I actually have to get out of the house to go and do a nursery run. So let's answer a couple more questions before we do that. Is there an easy way to do cap gains report from like Trading 212 tax return? I haven't found one. Some of them are better than others. With FREETRADE, I am going to suffer because the current thing that shows you all your buys and sells is really bad. I try to keep a tracker in Excel because I know I will need it at some point in time. But yeah, these guys need to improve, I think, on how they report the data. Hi, Sasha, Trading 212 is not currently accepting new customers. Yeah, so I use eToro and I use FREETRADE alongside those. Those are the 3 that I currently use because of the benefits they have and the pricing. And I will be using others, but the others are just so expensive for the main part that I don't bother at the moment. Just watch your video about paying tax on Bitcoin. Do you have to do a self-assessment form even if you aren't self-employed to declare selling Bitcoin? Yes, if you want to fully declare it to the taxman so that they're aware, you do need to do a self-assessment. I do a self-assessment even if I don't really technically need to, even before I was a director of a company. because I just find there's a lot of benefits to that, because in some cases you will actually be owed money by the tax man. And especially if your wages, say, went up halfway through the year, for example, quite often they don't actually do a running total, or if you change jobs, they won't be doing that. And say if you changed job or got a better role or something like that, and your wages went up, in those cases, you'll actually sometimes be owed some money by the HMRC. And if you don't do the self-assessment, you have to wait like up to 2 years or something like that for the HMRC to then send you a check for that tax year some time ago. Whereas if you go and do the self-assessment, you actually get that money much more quickly, and then you don't have to worry that like you'll forget, or maybe that check won't arrive in the post. Anyway, I just like doing it out of principle because it just cleans things up anyway. So I'm not going to have time to go into some of these. Just watch. I like the cup in the videos, but you never use it. Nice. Okay, so I get this question a lot. This is a real cup. Despite what I said in one of my thumbnails or videos. It actually has tea in it. So I get asked this question. Sometimes I have this tiny little thing and people are asking, what is this tiny thing? So in the afternoons, like now, I drink tea. It's actually quite nice. I usually drink it between takes or between like recordings. I've actually improved a lot. I don't do that many takes anymore. You might have noticed in the recent videos, there's not that many cuts. I don't jump around as much because I've just got slightly better at talking on camera, hopefully over time. But I drink tea in the afternoon. I drink espresso coffee in the mornings, which is why I use that very tiny cup in some of the videos. So you will know what time I recorded the video if you notice which cup it is that I'm using. Right. Have I considered using Stakeout? I have and I have not. I'm not going into the details here. Those guys were very keen to get themselves promoted at one point in time. You might have noticed all the other YouTubers doing videos at exactly the same time. I chose not to do that, but maybe I will try them out at some point. When will I be making a video in passive venture experience with your business? I made a video about my business. It has like hardly any views on my channel. I'm not sure. I might have even deleted it because of that, but I think it's like how I started a business age 29 or something like that. Go and check it out over there, Chris, if you're interested. ISA or general investment account on FREETRADE? I get asked this question quite frequently. If I don't have a stocks and shares ISA account, and I am not making use of the £20,000 ISA allowance on any other type of ISA, I don't see why you wouldn't use stocks and shares ISA, because it is going to save you a lot more money in the long run, unless you're planning to hardly ever use it, and as a result you don't think you will ever need to pay capital gains tax or dividend tax because you're not going to be earning more than £2,000 worth of dividends in any year, or you're not going to ever cash in more than 12,300 or the equivalent in the future tax year. But the thing is, with all these brackets, they can come down as well as go up. Like, there has been precedent for a lot of these tax brackets to come down. And in the budget on Wednesday, I'm going to be doing a live, by the way, for the budget on Wednesday. This is my practice run before I do that. That tax bracket can actually come down. And if it comes down, then people who've been investing for a long time might be really annoyed, but there's not much you can do. Whereas if it's sitting in an ISA, it doesn't really matter. It would be exceptional and highly unlikely for them to retrospectively cancel the tax-free benefits of ISA accounts. So I'm a lot happier having my money sitting in an ISA account for that reason. If I'm not using it anywhere else, there's no real downside as far as I'm concerned, because it can only really have upsides. Why are so many finance YouTubers of Russian heritage? I know of me and Andre Jig in the US, and Tom Nash, I guess, as well. I have no idea. There's just a lot of Russians, I guess, dotted around the world. I've been here for so long. I didn't really think about it. But thanks for the Q&A. What is the cheapest way to invest monthly in an index fund like Vanguard, FTSE, Global, All Cap? I am not 100% sure how broadly it's available. I'm pretty sure it's available on FreeTrade, and I think on Trading212. I'm pretty sure it's definitely available on FreeTrade. And if you set up a FreeTrade general investment account, you don't have to pay anything, and you can go and buy it. That's it, guys. I'm going to have to dash now. Thank you so much for watching this far. I can't believe that I got more than one person watching. Thanks, everyone, for joining. I really apologize to anyone whose question I skipped or didn't answer. The very first time I'm doing it. Hopefully, I'll get slightly better at these, and I'll do a lot more of these live streams over time. in case anyone actually found any value or found them interesting. Some of them will be quick Q&As, but what I'll try to do is do a lot more coverage of real events. So on Wednesday, I'm going to be doing one when the budget is being announced, kind of talking through what some of these things mean, maybe switching between different commentaries. So tune in for that if you're interested. Thank you very much, and I'll see you guys later.